Welcome back to the channel, guys. Amazon have dropped the second trailer for The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, but the biggest question remains, where is the Lord of the Rings himself? Where is the Dark Lord Sauron? It's obvious Amazon are trying to keep him hidden, but it's possible we've already seen the Dark Lord hiding in plain sight. There are many clues out there, and I'm going to discuss many theories and possible spoilers, and I'll give you a spoiler warning when I talk about that later in the video. But before we start, if you're a fan of Tolkien, make sure you subscribe for more videos. And I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a like on this video as well. So the Dark Lord Sauron is the main antagonist of this series, the Lord of the Rings himself, the titular character, and the subtitle is his master plan to dominate the free peoples of Middle-earth. But Amazon have yet to officially reveal the former lieutenant to the first Dark Lord, Morgoth. And I've always felt this would remain the case until the actual episodes air on September the 2nd. Amazon will never show Sauron in his true appearance or announce the actor playing him. However, there will be other characters and minor antagonists in Season 1, and many of us think one of them or more of them could be Sauron in disguise. It is possible Sauron could be hiding in plain sight, even on the good side. After Morgoth is imprisoned in the Void, Sauron fled justice. He fled the Valar and remained hidden somewhere in Middle-earth. And on the TV show, Galadriel suspects that Sauron is hiding in the Northern Waste, and that's why she's up north in the snowy mountains hunting him. But it's possible she's looking in the wrong place. So let's take a look at my suggestions for Sauron. And we start off with the mysterious character known as the Stranger, or as the fans have dubbed him, Meteor Man, played by Daniel Wyman. He is a bearded man who arrives in Middle-earth from the sky in a ball of fire, and is then found by the Harfoot, Nori Brandyfoot. And I think this is pretty obvious. There is so much evidence for Meteor Man being Sauron. The meteor is clearly magical, and thus we can assume the character is as well. And when the ball of fire lands, the Eye of Sauron's pattern is visible, or something very similar. And Meteor Man has been a huge focal point of several teasers now. Several main characters observe the meteor falling from the sky, and if we go back to the very first teaser at the Super Bowl, the meteor is first seen and the words "Before the Ring" appear on screen. Amazon are clearly making the meteor a huge deal. It's possible it's one of his many disguises, but it's also possible Meteor Man could be another character, and perhaps a red herring placed by Amazon to keep us guessing the real identity of Sauron. And before this trailer, I was so confident that he was Sauron, but now I'm not so sure because it just seems so obvious. But maybe it's supposed to be. If this is Sauron, it's clearly a disguise to get to know the hobbits. Or perhaps this is a form that he's stuck in for now. And we could argue that Daniel Wyman has that look. I could totally see him as Anatar, or a darker version of Anatar-like form that he will settle in for most of the series. Because remember, Sauron is a shapeshifter with several forms. The ones I've mentioned, plus so many more, from vampire to a serpent, even a werewolf. I think Amazon need to be very careful. Because if it isn't him, Meteor Man feels nothing more than a cheap misdirect. They think they're being clever, but they're not. It kind of feels like they're trying to make the fans feel stupid. But whoever they are, they have a relationship with the Harfoots, which is going to lead them to being brought into the major conflicts of the Second Age. But remember, Sauron didn't know about the hobbits of the Shire in the Third Age when hunting the ring. Gollum had to help him out on that one. But I suppose Amazon could get around this by saying Harfoots are early hobbits, even though they are just one of 3 groups that make up the hobbit race. But on Amazon's show, they seem to be ancestors of hobbits, and they are a nomadic people. They travel all over Middle-earth. So perhaps Sauron just forgets about them, or maybe he can't find them, or he doesn't associate hobbits and Harfoots as the same. Really don't know, but Meteor Man seems the obvious choice, and he was my pick for Sauron, but then again it just seems too obvious. But maybe that's the point. Next up is a character known as Adar, played by Joseph Mawle, who was Benjen Stark in Game of Thrones. And Adar seems to be the leader of the orcs, but I had a theory a while ago that this is just one of Sauron's disguises to recruit the orcs. And the orcs do wear the sigil of Sauron, the Eye. And years ago there was a codename, he was known as Orin, and he was the main antagonist of Season 1, and many people thought, yeah, that is a codename for Sauron. especially once the posters drop and we can see his black armoured hand with a big sword. But I believe there's reports that this character is definitely not Sauron. Supposedly Adar is a corrupted elf, and many think it might be one of Galadriel's lost brothers, who were slain in the First Age. And his sword makes me think that, because it looks very similar to the one that Galadriel and her party wield, and also the Sons of Fëanor. So this is clearly an elven blade, so I am leaning into the direction of a corrupted elf, who shall probably have to kill in the finale of Season 1 to put him to rest. And Galadriel's brother is very un-Tolkien, but Amazon have taken a lot of creative liberties with this show. That is obvious. It is possible he is Sauron, like I said, in a form to recruit orcs. Maybe he is controlling the form, or maybe it's just to mess with Galadriel. It's possible Sauron was the one who corrupted Galadriel's brother way back in the First Age, and is now using him to further his ambitions in Middle-earth. I do think Adar is a very interesting character, but I'm not really a big fan of Galadriel off hunting Sauron and her coming across a corrupted elf who turns out to be her brother. It kind of feels very video game fan-fictiony to me, and I kind of feel Adar's main purpose, other than being associated with Galadriel, is to basically be a minor antagonist while Sauron is in the background. I kind of feel he's a season 1 and done. But now we have one that kind of doesn't make sense, but at the same time it does. Halbrand, played by Charlie Vickers, who is an Amazon original character. He is a man who is stranded on a raft on the Sundering Seas alongside Galadriel, and they have to work together to survive a storm, and they end up in Numenor together. Halbrand is supposedly running away from his past, and I suspected that has something to do with Numenor. Maybe he's trying to get away from the island, but the storm brings him back. And it looks like he won't be welcomed by the Númenóreans. And if we go back to the headless character posters, Halbrand was very Rohirrim-like, with his scale armour and horse sword hilt. So it's possible that Halbrand flees Numenor during or before the downfall, and settles in the land that will become Colonorthon, a province of Gondor, later known as Rohan when it gains independence. And in the past I've described Halbrand as an Aragorn knockoff, but perhaps that's what Amazon want us to believe. All clues point towards Halbrand being the heroic male character who turns out to be an ancestor of Rohan. But maybe Amazon are just bluffing, and he is Sauron in disguise. But if we go by Tolkien, Sauron would feel a human form is far below him. But this is Amazon, so maybe he takes this form as a way of infiltrating Numenor and getting to know its rulers and their weaknesses, which he can exploit later. In particular, Pharazôn. I just hope this does not cause the downfall, because in the books, later on, once Sauron has established a lot of power in Middle-earth and starts attacking Numenor colonies and settlements, Pharazôn sails to Middle-earth with a huge army and Sauron voluntarily surrenders, because he knows there's no point in fighting. He cannot beat the Númenóreans. Sauron is taken back to Numenor as a prisoner, but he has a plan. He works his way from prisoner to chief advisor to Pharazôn. He introduces a new way of life to Numenor, including sacrifices to Morgoth, and convinces the king to sail to the Undying Lands to claim immortality, only for the Valar to ask God, Eru Ilúvatar, to intervene, who then opens a massive chasm in the sea between Numenor and Aman, which destroys Pharazôn and his armada and sinks the island of Numenor, killing all its inhabitants, including Sauron's body, who stayed behind whilst the main threat to his plans sailed away to their doom. But because Sauron is a Maiar, he cannot truly be killed, but his body is destroyed and his spirit crawls back to Middle-earth, back to Mordor, and he loses one of his most potent abilities, the ability to shapeshift into fair forms. So Sauron does go to Numenor in the books, but not as Halbrand, much later in the timeline as a prisoner. But of course Amazon are compressing down the timeline. Hundreds, if not thousands of years happen in decades perhaps. And I just hope Amazon don't change how Sauron gets to Numenor. So there's been many theories for a long time now that Halbrand is Sauron, as a way of spying on Numenor, and then coming back years later to finish them off. But this is where we get into spoiler territory, so I'll give you a minute to back out now. Supposedly Halbrand is Sauron. Like I said, this theory's been around for a while now, but supposedly it's confirmed. In my last video, many of you guys told me that Neurotic confirms that this character is Sauron, so I went and checked out the video. Obviously we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. So Halbrand kinda seems like the clear favourite now, even though it doesn't make much sense and it isn't Tolkien, because what really happens is Sauron appears to the elves of Region as Annatar, the Lord of Gifts, who has not been announced yet as a character on the show, but Annatar claims to be an emissary from the Valar, and he corrupts Celebrimbor and the elven smiths of Eregion into forging the Rings of Power. He comes to them offering them knowledge and power, but really he is the master manipulator, the deceiver, Sauron. Nobody knows that though, but Gil-galad, Elrond, Círdan, Galadriel, they don't trust him. But Celebrimbor falls for it, and the rest is history. I think Sauron will appear as Annatar, whether it's Halbrand, played by Charlie Vickers, Adar, played by Joseph Mawle, or the Stranger, played by Daniel Wyman, or perhaps another actor. My money at first was on Meteor Man, but it kind of just seems too obvious. But now with this supposed confirmation that he is actually Halbrand, who knows? But maybe my original theory might still stand, that Sauron is not just one actor or one character in Season 1. He is a shapeshifter taking multiple forms all over Middle-earth, and he takes a form familiar to the race that he's trying to deceive. To a bearded old man to the Harfoots, he might even claim to be Tom Bombadil or a blue wizard. To the orcs, Adar. To the elves, Annatar. To the dwarfs, a master craftsman. And to the Númenóreans, Halbrand. Obviously that is not what Tolkien wrote, and Sauron would not take lesser forms of men or dwarfs, but it would kind of make sense for what Amazon are doing. So maybe none of them are Sauron, maybe they all are. Perhaps this is a non-linear story, and Sauron has been all over Middle-earth, and in the final episode the penny drops and everyone's been fooled. I really don't know, I'm just brainstorming, trying to have a bit of fun, but for now make sure you post your thoughts. Tell me who you think Sauron is. Is it the Stranger? Is it Halbrand? Is it Adar? Is it someone else? Has he not been revealed yet? If you haven't already, make sure you check out my full trailer breakdown and also leave requests as well for more videos. But for now, thank you so much for watching, subscribe and like for more videos, and I'll see you soon.